The sun rises slowly over the hills. Everywhere is golden sunlight, but still, most nights with hotels are crowded. There are days with dark clouds are shrouded. They don't smile and they never will. Only volunteers get the fill. Empty promises is what they hear. No running water from year to year. Hearts that no one desire. That if there is a Messiah, someday he hear their whispered prayer. Covered always bare and scanty. 10 people in a one-bedroom shanty. Forced to sell on the pavement. No vacancy, no employment. Cattle fire cracker from gunshot. Blood just flow when things get hot. Afraid to look out the window. To hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 Lord, Lord, crying, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Crying, crying, Lord, Lord, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Help us, Father. Lord. Mothers just hold them head and ball. And them woman stronger than a wall. A big pusher eyeing she daughter. Son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for him, be a name bad boys. No bail, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say, poverty is hell. She little girl child belly start to swell. Some say life is a cycle, but don't draw she no circle. Where will it all end? Only time to tell. Outside the siren keep howling, inside your belly will growling. Police raid very often. Simpson measuring a coffin. One night in bed you're sleeping. Next night is a wave that you're keeping. So you're praying to win the lotto, not to hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 crying. Voices from the ghetto. Crying, Lord, crying. Voices from the ghetto. We are not a forgotten people. Yo. With dented pride, they sold ya on.
Good evening, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My name is Jomo Thomas. The program you're about to listen to is called Voices. This is a Voices program for February 19th, 2024. We don't have a guest on tonight, so I will take the entire program. We'll go for 2 hours. I hope you will join me. You may have comments, you may have questions, you may have opinions you want to express. Anything you want to talk about, you can come in. This is what we call an open forum this evening. But as is normal, before we get into whatever else we're going to talk about, I want to read for you my column for last week. And that column for last week is entitled Deconstructing ULP's Big Things Are Going Babble. To babble is to talk rapidly and continuously in a foolish, excited, or incomprehensible manner. Prime Minister Gonzalez and his clansmen have perfected this craft. They took this nonsense to a new level in their column, St. Vincent advancing as never before, in the February 2nd issue of the newspapers. One reads the piece and can't help but scream. These jokers can't be serious. On which distant planet do they reside? Are they in communion with the broad citizenry, or are they content to huddle with their dwindling band of supporters who say my party right or wrong, or an even smaller sliver of the population who feed at the national trough and live it up at the expense of the rest of us? In its survey of the national landscape, the ULP propagandists make the following points. 1. The gross domestic product, or the aggregate value of all goods and services produced in a year, has grown more than 3.5 times from 2001, when it assumed power, to 2023. It says we have grown from 800 million in 2001 to 2.8 billion. It also tells us more wealth has been created in St. Vincent than ever before. You can't argue with numbers, but we can question them. We know the vast majority of citizens have yet to see or benefited from the so-called wealth creation that has occurred. Proof of this assertion can be found by looking at the unemployment and poverty statistics. We now have over 40% youth unemployment, and 4 out of 10 Vincentians live in poverty. So much for wealth creation. 2, the party says that the nominal GDP, the gross national product, has increased from $8,000 to $25,000 annually, and that the real income has more than doubled. Nominal gross national product, as we all know, nominal gross national product is not an accurate measurement of progress. The average person is far better off, the ULP says. Seriously? Thousands of Vincentians go the entire year without earning $800, $8,000, or $25,000. The ULP bigwigs and their local and foreign friends make far more than $25,000 per year. But the majority of the population eke out a living and find it increasingly difficult to keep body and soul together. The gross national product as a measurement of progress has long been discredited. Gonzalez and his clan needs to wield and come again. The third point the party makes is that taxes on businesses have been reduced from 40% to 28% at the top, and at the bottom, personal income tax below $25,000 is tax-free. This tax reduction is significant for those at the top. However, employees at the bottom are continually squeezed. They spend most of their money on food and other basic purchases. Most Vincentians work for starvation wages and have to pay 16% VAT. These claims that they retain more of their income ring hollow. 4, more persons are employed today than ever before, says the ULP. The official unemployment figures numbers have mostly stayed the same in the last 2 decades. Governments past and present tell us that it's just over 20%. There has been negligible growth in the population. So, what accounts for what the ULP says is employment growth from 30,000 in 2001 to 40,000 to 44,000 in 2023? How? How many of these persons are self-employed small entrepreneurs? The roadsides across St. Vincent and the Grenadines is littered with persons eking out a living with ice boxes and barbecue grills. You would make up the majority of the persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and youth unemployment is more than 40%. So where is the growth the government brags about? Significantly, the party does not tell us our current unemployment rate. It does say, though, that unemployment is defined as persons 15 to 24 15 to 63 years old who can work, are looking for work, and are prepared to work and cannot find work. 5. The ULP says that the poverty level has fallen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the war against poverty continues on all fronts. Just like with unemployment, the party refuses or fails to tell us the current poverty rate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 2020, the government abandoned a poverty assessment report, which found that poverty consumed more than 38% of the population. It also discovered that there were deep pockets of poverty in every constituency. This revelation represented a drastic deterioration from previous assessments where only North Leeward and Barrowlee were identified as deeply poverty-stricken. Gonzalez and his clansmen said that the poverty assessment needed to be peer-reviewed. Camilo Gonzalez, the Prime Minister's son and Finance Minister, said it was compromised and therefore had to be scrapped. 6. The party says that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has moved from a country with a median level of development in 2001 to a high level of development in 2023. Absolutely laughable. One can only guess that foreign assessors look at the quality of our housing stock and the number of vehicles on the road. They need to check with the banks and credit unions to see the high level of homes, the high number of homes that have been repossessed for non-payment of loans. They must also peruse the court docket for those persons brought there for non-payment of small loans from Quick Cash, Fast Cash, courts, Singer, and other institutions. Without easy access to credit, the ULP's claim of a massive uplift in our people's material life and living would plummet. 7. The ULP says SVG is on the road to an economic recovery. This new view is a revision of the 2006 rhetoric that the country is on the cusp of an economic takeoff. If there is an economic recovery, most Vincentians neither see nor feel it. With a projected growth rate of 5.5% in 2024, there is little or nothing for Vincentians to shout about. Sandals, the Jamaican hotel magnate, is ecstatic. Akon, the company that is building the modern port for $600 million, laughs all the way to the bank with the windfall from dredging our sand for peanuts. Reno, the company that came here to dredge stone, is orgasmic, while Gonzalez and his clansmen remain jubilant. But, as Brother Ebony, the vintage Calipstonian, says, most citizens ain't have nothing at all. It is clear, as the elders say, damn fool a talk, but not damn fool a listen. That was my take, because 2 weeks ago, the ULP wrote this, what I thought was a rather nonsensical column masquerading as scholarship. And I felt compelled to respond to that piece. And I laid it out here in this piece. You can join, you can tell me what you think. Because for this party in 2024, be parading and masquerading gross national product as evidence of progress, is clear that they have embraced this neoliberal nonsense about economic generation without looking in real and fundamental ways as to how the people of the country are benefiting. Clearly, monies are being generated. Clearly, some sections of the population, a very small section, is making a lot of money. Clearly, those who are connected, those who are carry the party card, those who genuflect to Gonzalez, those who are with the ULP and are contented to go down with the ULP may get some crumb, but the vast majority of the people are not benefiting from what's happening in St. Vincent. I saw a piece a few weeks ago. I think it was the February edition of the Searchlight, in which a brother who has made outstanding contribution to St. Vincent says that nobody would doubt that there's development taking place in St. Vincent. Well, to the extent that we have development, this is development on the margins. This is not development that touch and concern the basic daily life of people. This is development on the margin. This is not development that is intrinsic to the vast majority of people. And to hear a progressive person heralding this and saying, oh, we have advanced. Advanced to where? And I would show you when I get later on in the column that the advancement is really a mirage. Many of our people, most of our people, are 1 or 2 paychecks from poverty. Many of them, most of them, make in St. Vincent, the average income is between $1,200 and $1,500. The vast majority of people in the commercial sector, particularly in the retail trade, make between $800 and $1,000 per month. So where is this development that we are talking about? Where is the development when 40+% of the youth, and we have to understand that youth make up more than 60% of the Vincentian population. So when we talk about youth unemployment of 40% or more, we are essentially talking about the vast majority of Vincentian people. 40+%, says the World Bank, is is unemployed. Then we could also look at many of those persons who are underemployed. People who are making between $1,200 and $1,500 per month. People who went to community college, got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 subjects. CXCs got 6, 7, 8, 9 subjects, went to community college, got 3 or 4 CAPE subjects. Many of them went on, they got associated degrees, and then they come back in the SET program and they make between $1,200 and $1,500. So where is this development that we are talking about? So that's unemployment and underemployment. Well, not even to speak of the kind of sexploitation that takes place, particularly with our young women who go out to these commercial houses to look for work. So that's unemployment, that's underemployment. And then there's the question of poverty. Remember in 2018, there was a poverty assessment done. The government buried the report. Why did they bury it? Because the report showed that up to 38% of the Vincentian population, that is at least 1 in 4 persons, were living in poverty. And unlike the reports of earlier periods, where there were pockets of deep poverty and where there was indigence of up to 28%, in this report, vast sections of the population were experiencing poverty. So we had a downward trend, a backward trend, where we had pockets of poverty in the assessments previously, and now poverty seems to be pervasive. It's all across the country. In the early assessments, we were able to identify Sandy Bay, Barrowley, parts of Chateaubelair as deep pockets. Now, North Central Windward, the Prime Minister's constituency, is experiencing broad pockets of poverty in different constituencies. So poverty was now across the land. Across the land, wherever you look, there were poverty-stricken people. 4 in 10. And then we could also look at the persons who were just below, just above the poverty level. So imagine that for a family of 4, you say $1,500 per month means that you're living in poverty. Assume, right? And then There are a whole series of people who live between make between $1,500 and $2,000 per month, but they still have 6 persons in the family. So they were just above the poverty level, but they were still the working poor. They were still being exploited. They were still working for starvation wages. Yet the government celebrates increase in the gross national product. The gross national product, brothers and sisters, the gross national product of a country is not an indicator, and Ralph Gonzalez should know this. Camilo Gonzalez should know this, if not anybody else in his cabinet. Jimmy Prince, a progressive brother from earlier periods, should know this. That the gross domestic product is not a good indicator. It is not a good indicator, just like the per capita income is not a good indicator. Because as we see, when we got to the second point which the party makes about the nominal GDP has increased from 8,000 to 25,000. That is as if to say that there's 25,000 people reflected making the GDP is reflective about per capita about $25,000. And that's not the case. We know that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there are thousands of people who do not make 800, who do not make 8,000 far more than they make $25,000. As I said, the average income in St. Vincent is between $800 and $1,200 per month. That means people are making about $18,000 per year. That's the vast majority of us. Because the average, ask them anytime, the average income in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not more than $1,500. It's true we have some people who make 7,000, 8,000, 10,000. Others make probably hundreds of thousands, but not the vast majority of people. They make on average about between 12 and 1,500. So if they're making 12 and 1,500, that is not even $24,000 per year. And when you understand that these people who are not making that money have to pay 16% VAT. They spend most of that $800, most of that $1,000, most of that $1,500 on food. They spend it on books for the children. They spend it on clothing. And they have to pay 16% VAT. What that tells us is that the VAT is such a big burden on the backs of Vincentian people. It tells us that VAT is such a big burden. But then the government celebrates its numbers and say, oh, the gross domestic product is so and so and so and so. But again, brothers and sisters, we have to pay close attention. We cannot allow this government to throw dust in our eyes. We have to be clear-eyed. We have to be organized. We have to be conscious. We have to know what we are doing. I saw a quote. I think I put it on my Facebook page yesterday. That part of the biggest problem that our people face is that we don't know that we have problems, or we don't know that we have the power to change the problems that we have. So this notion of a gross domestic product, gross national product, it's nonsense, and you have to reject it as nonsense, because 40% youth unemployment, 40% poverty, that is not a sign that we are doing well. So when the ULP says that to us, we need to understand that they are playing the fool, and we need to reject it. And whatever they come with, the people need to understand that it's time for us to begin to look beyond that kind of rhetoric, or to test that rhetoric, to question that rhetoric. Because as the great Brazilian educator Paulo Freire says, the people have to learn to question. The people have to be taught to question. The people have to look deeper and deeper and deeper into what leaders are saying. Because without that, we're going to allow them to throw dust in our face. So that's two. And then they tell us that taxes have been reduced from 40%. I don't think it's 40%. I think it was 38% when the ULP got into power. But let's take their number, 40% to 28%. Right? And that's at the top. So that's people who are making a lot of money. The big companies, the big corporations, well, those that are not tax-free, they're making they used to be paying 40%, now it's down to 28%. So they are saving a lot more money. And then the government tells us that at the bottom, if you're making 25%, I mean, if you're making $25,000, you don't have to pay any tax. But we know, as I said, the average income is $1,500 per month, which means that the vast majority of people in St. Vincent are making less than $20,000 per year. But even at that $20,000 per year, they are forced to pay 16% VAT each time they go to the store, each time they go to the supermarket, each time they go to buy books or clothing for their children. 16%. So this notion that this is a great thing that's happening, if you're not making more than $25,000, you don't have to pay tax. Well, and they try to tell us too, when we got into power in 2001, it was 12,000. Well, we don't expect things to remain static. It was 12,000 then. It's 25,000. It's 24,000 now. 25,000 now. Just like people were making X amount of money back then, probably 600. Now they're making 800 or 1,000. So we don't expect things to remain static. And clearly, when they tell us it's $25,000, yeah, it's $25,000, but people are not even making that. People are making $12,000. Many people make $1,000 per month. That's $12,000 per year. We know that each year, persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the government boasts about this, that 5,000, 6,000, close to 7,000 Vincentians, adults, would rush, climb over each other, fight over each other to get a job to clean the street for 8 days. And in those 8 days, they make $250. And they work twice per year. They work twice per year. They work when school is opening and at Christmas time. So when school is opening in September, they get 8 days. And when Christmas time is coming, they get another 8 days. And that's close to 7,000 people who climb over each other to get that 8 days work. But you know something else? The government counts that as people who are employed. So these 6,000 people are supposedly employed, and they work for 16 days per year and make about $500. But these 6,000 are counted as employed. That is the kind of foolishness that the government pushes. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. But that's what we have. So this notion that it's now the nominal GDP is $25,000 per person is not real. It is not a good test. It is not a good reflection of what we see in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's take point 4. More persons are employed today, says the ULP, than ever before. And they tell us in 2001 it was 30,000 people, and now it's 44,000 people. Now, brothers and sisters, check this out. Every year, many of us would sit back to listen to the budget. Every year, in January or February, we sit for a week and we listen to the budget. We listen to the Finance Minister, Camilo Gonzalez, present. He has been presenting since 2018. And when you listen to the budget, if you add all of the persons whom the government is projecting to hire, it does not amount to more than 100. Each year, the government is projecting to hire persons, and it does not amount to more than 100. And I challenged them to show me a budget where it was 200. So you have this year $2.4 billion budget, but you're projecting that you would create about, in the government sector, you would create about, let's say, 100 persons. And then the projection would be, oh, Sandals is going to open and you're going to get another 600, 800 persons. Those are projected numbers. But when we look, those persons are going to be, as Sandals themselves says, they're going to be working for less than $5 per hour. So they too would be working for starvation wages. They too would not be able to get sufficient money to keep body and soul together. But the government says that more persons are employed than ever before. Where is the evidence of this? We are not seeing it in the government sector. We are not seeing it in the private sector. And to the extent that we are seeing that we can account for that additional 14,000 people, are we counting, like I said, the 6,000, 7,000 persons who work for 2 weeks or for 15, 16 days twice per year? Are we counting those persons who are on the roadsides with their ice box, with their barbecue grill? Are we counting those as employed? Are we, when we talk about moving from 30 to 44,000, are we talking about people who have been in the system who migrated to another country? Are we still counting persons who are dead? Are we counting persons who have lost their jobs? Because we know a lot of people lost their jobs based on this government's vindictive policy beginning in 2020, 2021 with the vaccine mandate. We know that over 160 teachers were dismissed. We know the government encouraged the private sector to dismiss hundreds of workers. Are they still being counted as being employed? So again, when the government tells us that all of these people are employed, we know that is not the truth. And I challenge them, and this is why you have to be able to go to the National Insurance Service and let them tell you what the real numbers are. You cannot depend on Ralph Gonzalez and his clan to tell you what the numbers are. Proof. Gonzalez says 1,000 persons are working at Sandals, at the construction site. But a few weeks before, his son, the finance minister, said about 900 persons are working. You all may remember they told us, Gonzalez would say that about 2,000 new homes were built under what they called the housing revolution. But check where the houses are and check to see if it comes to 2,000. So the government is known for inflating numbers. They're known for swelling the numbers. So when they tell us these when they toss these numbers out, because remember, when election time, and election time is fast approaching, when election time is upon us, Gonzalez will go to a meeting and have 6,000, 7,000 people and tell you it's 40,000. And not only that, to give an impression that it's official, he says the police told me that the numbers at our meeting were 40,000. So when they talk about people being employed like never before, we have to check that. We have to question that. We have to find out, are they really telling us the truth? And if these people are indeed employed, how are they employed? How much money are they making? How much money does the lady selling the ice box on the penny bank? How much is she making with her water and her coconut water and so on? How much are the people at Heritage Square making? The lady who sells close to close to Bowman's Pharmacy. How much is she making selling bananas and lemons? How much? So people are being forced to make ends meet. They have the ice box, they have the barbecue grill, and the government is putting them under more and more pressure to satisfy foreign tourists. Scores of Vincentian small entrepreneurs were taken off the street and tossed into warehouses. Scores were taken off the street and tossed into warehouses. They never got a chance. Everyone would tell you that to go into one of the market, but you have to go upstairs. They complain. Each day the government wants $10 per day. In fact, a brother who's now has some medical problems told me he used to sell on the building and loans. And he has not been able to sell on the building and loan because he has a medical problem. But each day, the government still says that he owes them $10, even though he has been sick and is confined to his home. So they are going after these small entrepreneurs who are on the street trying to eke out a living. They're not creating any real sustainable employment, because sandals is not neither real nor sustainable if you're working for $4, $5 per hour. Sandals can't be real or sustainable if you essentially, at the end of the day, you're working 8-10 hours and you are still part of the working poor. That cannot be sustainable employment. They tell us that we are making, we have more persons employed than ever before. The interesting thing about this, brothers and sisters, is that the previous government under James Mitchell and Arnhem Eustace celebrated the fact that we only had about 20% unemployment. Ralph Gonsalves and his finance minister can't tell us what the official number is, because in their column of the February 2nd, they did not say. They wanted to debunk the notion that we had 40% plus unemployment. And they told us that the NIS figures show from 30 to 44. But they could not tell us from their official numbers what the current unemployment rate. Didn't mention that in the column. But what it told us, which was significant, is that they said that a person is somebody a person 15 to 63 years old who can work, are looking for work, are prepared to work, and cannot find work. So that those persons who have been on the breadline for a long time, who have been ill-trained, who needs retraining and don't have the tools to get retraining, who no longer look for jobs. They say, well, that person is not unemployed because he or she is not looking for work. But somebody may be willing to work, but is not currently looking for work because he or she has been tired of looking and reaching out and can't make any advances in the workplace. But the government now tells us that if you are between 15 and 63 and you are not looking for work, then you are not unemployed. Well, what are you? And you know there's something interesting about the government number of 15 to 63? When the World Bank said that youth were people between 16 and 35, the government's propaganda said, well, no. It can't be that, because we have thousands of 15 and 16-year-olds who were in school. But they, by their own numbers, tell us persons between 15 to 63 can look for work. But not only that, brothers and sisters, we know that scores of persons, hundreds of persons actually, who are older than 63 continue to work because they must work. They don't have anything that would hold them. scores, hundreds of them. You see them in the security industry. You see them working with the different security firms and so on. Older brothers and sisters in their 60s, some of them in their 70s, who still have to work because they have little or nothing to tide them over. So even when the government cut off at 63, we know that the numbers which they're giving us don't really make any sense. So that's that. That's the fourth point. The fifth point, the ULP says that poverty has fallen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the war against poverty continues on all fronts. Now, where is the war on poverty in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? I remember when I used to work as the CEO of the Social Investment Fund, the Kiara group of consultants did a report. They did one in 2008, and they did one in 1998, which found that about 37% of our people were living in poverty, and that about 28% were living in dire poverty, what the Prime Minister liked to call dirt poor. And then in 2008, they did another study, and there was some reduction, that the poverty level dropped from 38% to 30%. And those persons who were considered indigent, those persons who were considered dirt poor, reduced from 28% to 2.75%. So that was a dramatic decrease in persons who were considered dirt poor. But the 2018 census showed a complete reversal in all of that. That poverty all over the country, the poverty showed. So when the government did the assessment in 2018, they buried the report because they did not want to indicate that things had fallen apart, the bottom had fallen apart, and people were really, really struggling in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then Daniel Cummins, the opposition parliamentarian for West Kingstown, got a copy of the report and goaded the government to release the numbers, or he would release them. And the government didn't release them. And when Daniel Cummins released the numbers, the government then said, oh, the poverty is the silliness of Ralph Gonzalez. Right? He says the report, the poverty assessment report, needed to be peer reviewed. You all remember that? How do you mean you do a study? What do you mean you peer review the study? Did the Kiara group, I don't know who did the did the Kiara group call on any other group to peer review the 2008 report? Did Mitchell administration call on anybody to peer review the 1998 poverty assessment report? But Gonzalez, embarrassed by the numbers, said, well, we couldn't release it because it had to be peer reviewed, and it was not peer reviewed. And then his son, Finance Minister Camilo Gonzalez, said, oh, well, we can't release it because it was compromised by Daniel Cummins leaking the report. It was compromised, and consequently, we're going to scrap that report, and we're going to spend another $5,000 to do another report, which we intend to release in 2025. The audacity of these men. Having spent millions of dollars to do the 2018 report, they canned it out of shame and embarrassment, and then said they're going to spend another $5 million to do another report. So that's the problem right there. That's the problem right there. We know that unemployment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I mean, not unemployment, poverty in St. Vincent and the Grenadines has not fallen. In fact, based from 2008, after the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the world economic crisis, St. Vincent has been battered by a series of natural disasters, political, economic difficulties, and so on. So whatever gains we made by 2008, all of those were reversed. All. And any honest person looking at St. Vincent would know that it has been reversed. Then we had COVID and the government vindictive evil policy that allowed for hundreds of persons to lose the job. Then we had the volcanic eruption, which caused, again, a number of other persons to lose the job. So we know that the poverty level in St. Vincent has grown. So when the government tells us that poverty has fallen or that it is fighting poverty, is committed to, we know it's not true. We know it's not true. And we must not accept this rhetoric that is true. Significantly, again, brothers and sisters, like the unemployment numbers, the government tells us, oh, poverty has fallen, but it doesn't tell us where it is now. Remember when the government bragged and told us that poverty fell from 38% to 30% and indigence fell from 28% to 2.75%? Remember? They no longer tell us that. They dance around the question. And in dancing around the question, we can conclude without any doubt at all that the poverty numbers have risen. And if the government of the day that has a statistical division can't tell us what the unemployment rate is in St. Vincent, and if they can't tell us what the poverty rate is in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it means that they are unfit to govern. It means that they are unfit to govern. So that's 5. And then the party says that the country has moved with a median level of development in 2001 to a high level of human development in 2023. Laughable. In the first place, the Unity Labour Party government, which says it is a progressive government, has held on to all of the neoliberal models of development. All of them it has held on to. It has held on to all of them. So it talks about median level of development and high level of development. It's a trick. They should accept this on the part of the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF. It's a trick to squeeze southern countries, developing countries. So how does St. Vincent move from median level of development to high level of human development when 90% of all of the capital investment in St. Vincent is either from loans or grants? We don't generate anything in St. Vincent to do capital development. How do you move in that way when you don't even have the money to do basics? When your hospital is a dead trap? When you can't fix your roads? When your 2 major schools, high school and grammar school, high school for girls, grammar school for boys, the main facilities were closed for years, and the boys at grammar school just went back. And the girls at high school are going to be at the tarmac for a long time because their schools seem to be in a state of disrepair. When the Thomas Sanders School is closed and they are now out at the tarmac, how can we say that we have moved to high level of development? How can we say that when diabetes and hypertension and other organ failures are ripping through the health of our people? How do we move? How do we claim that we have gone to? So when the ULP celebrates this as an advancement, it is clear that this is not a progressive anything. This is an embrace of reactionary, bourgeois capitalist policies. But they want to celebrate that because they think it makes them sound good. Oh, in 22 years, we have moved from median level of development to a high level of development. Where is the high level of development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Where? Let them point us to it. But they can't. But they like to spread the rhetoric. But brothers and sisters, there's something else we need to talk about. They say that the material conditions of our people, have increased more than ever before. Because they say we have more cell phones than before. We have more refrigerators and washing machines. We have vehicles. We have people building homes than ever before. And the government takes credit for this. Well, if you go to the bank or to the credit union and you borrow $350,000 and you build a 3-bedroom home, how is that credit to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? If you have a cell phone, how is that credit to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? If you buy a refrigerator or a stove or a washing machine on credit, how does that effort at material advancement become a credit to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And you know how it's not a credit? Go to the recovery divisions of the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a national bank, or go to the recovery divisions of the credit unions and see how many of these homes that people purchased are now in recovery at these banks and credit unions. If you think that they should get the credit, go to the court on Thursdays and see the list of close to 200 names of persons brought there by Singer, by courts, by quick cash, by fast cash. Because our people are now living on credit. Our people, brothers and sisters, if it had not been for the credit, fast cash, quick cash, some other cash, courts has a kind of cash now that they have. If there's not that, this silly talk by the governing administration about material conditions better than ever before, it's nothing. They know it, but they're celebrating it. They said, oh, we have 100,000 cell phones. Look, last September, I was in the Congo, the Republic of the Congo. The Congo is one of the poorest countries in the world. But I didn't see anyone without a cell phone. Everybody had a cell phone. When you drive through the Congo, the poverty was in your face. But everyone had a cell phone. So how is that a sign of government advancing? People are making sacrifices. And the great thing is, to the benefit of some of the economic magnates, is that they have something called WhatsApp. So you can now, I remember when mommy left us in the 70s and went to the United States, it used to cost like about $5 a minute to call. So we probably call once or twice per year. Now, if you have a friend in Australia, if you get to if you're in a hot wired zone, or if you get $5 credit or $10 credit, or if you're fortunate to have internet, you can call somebody in Australia, you can call somebody in Pakistan, you can call somebody in Romania, you can call your friend in Chateaubriand. But that's the credit. In fact, that is the creativity capitalism. Capitalism has now, every time it enters a crisis, it reinvents itself in a way to let ordinary people see or know But look, don't worry with us. We're gonna find a way for you to survive. So the new thing is credit. I mean, when as an undergraduate, the banks used to come to the school gate, getting students to sign up for credit cards. You get a $2,000 credit, you get a $4,000 credit, and you are locked in for the rest of your life. There's some people who spend 30 years paying off a $2,000 credit loan. So when the ULP says that because we have more cars and we have more homes and we have more cell phones and we have washing machine and refrigerators and so on, it is not for the government to claim. It is the ingenuity of ordinary people. It is the sacrifice that they are making to get benefits, to make their material condition a little better. But they also suffer the indignities when they can't service these loans and they are forced. The singer van shows up, or the courts van shows up, and the refrigerator or the stove or the washing machine is taken back. Or the other thing that happens, they take you to the court. And I tell you, I see it. If you don't believe me, come any Thursday in the magistrate court in Kingstown. And you would see people with long list, 200 names, 200 plus names of persons are on there where these quick cash, fast cash, singer, courts, and credit unions, or ask the bailiff in the court system. You're driving your car, you didn't pay your car note, and the bailiff tells you, all right, get out. The credit union wants its car. Because remember, when you buy it on credit, there's a first mortgage in the name of the credit union or in the name of the bank. When you can't pay, they take it back, and sometimes you're embarrassed. The bailiff stops you on the street, and you have to get out. And the bailiff takes the car and drives it to its rightful owner, the bank or credit, either the bank or the credit, the unions that we have. So that's you can't take credit for that. Don't take credit for that. So we're at the top of the hour. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. There's much more for us tonight. I expect you to help me, but always remember that on Voices, if you don't help me, I have enough ammunition to take us all the way through until 10 p.m. I am Jomo Thomas. This is Voices. We'll be right back.
WeFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices, it's interactive and thought-provokingly different. Voices, hosted by Jomo Thomas. We'll analyze all the issues of concern to you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the diaspora. Voices. We have a voice. We need your voice. Together, we are the people's voice. Voices.
These are some serious times. All I can see around us is just violence and crime. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say. They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say. Hey, but I'll never forget no way they crucified Jesus Christ. I'll never forget no way they sold Marcus Garvey for rights. Ooh. God never forget no way. They turn their backs on Paul Bogle. Hey, hey, so don't you forget who you are and where you stand in the struggle. Hey, that's so very, 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 so very. They say it's everything. They say so much today. They got so much things to say, so much things to say. Line 99 I come to fight flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So while they fight you down, stand firm and give Jah thanks and praises. Cause I do expect to be justified.
Right. I'm Jomo Thomas. This is Voices. We're back. We're back. This one is going to be, I really said that I'm going to deconstruct this ULP narrative. I was actually taken aback when I saw this column back on February 2nd. And last week I didn't do it. But I was glad that I got a chance to do it in the February 16th edition of the papers. You know, in talking about the second point about that we have moved from medium to high income. Somebody made a point. Who was it? Hold on, let me find it. Oh, right. Angela Stowe Edwards says, don't forget people continue to send credit to family and friends. Remittances in St. Vincent amount to hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, without remittances, without the money, without the barrels, the boxes, we would be in a really, really bad place. There's no ifs, there's no ands, no buts about that. So thank you, Angela Stowe Edwards, for reminding me about remittances. Because that's a big, big part of what helped to keep our people going. Before I continue, I want to take another point. So Wando Brown says, man, the leaders of St. Vincent are fooling and using the people because they are loving it. Lies after lies, and them ain't learning. They like it so. So Wando, you got it wrong. People don't like it so. People are trying their best. You see, I've always said, and I remember reading this piece by Noam Chomsky, where he was talking about responsibility of leaders and responsibility of people, responsibility of change agents, responsibility of influencers, and responsibility of ordinary people. Know this much, Sawando. Ordinary people are so up to their throats trying to find ways to keep body and soul together that it is not difficult, it is not easy for them to find time to think and to think clearly. But even so, a clear sign of what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is that in 2020, amidst all of the bribery, amidst all of the mind bending of the governing party, people voted against the governing party by more than 528 votes. That is a clear positive sign. So give the people some credit for understanding, because they're coming in a situation where a government, I mean, if you were here in St. Vincent in 2020, there has never been an election campaign that has been more perverse, that has been more corrupted, that has been more tainted by money, giveaway of euros, of US dollars, like the 2020 campaign. And yet, the governing party, with total control of the state machinery, they still ended up losing the popular vote. So give the people some credit. And if you want to do something, if you want to blame the opposition for not putting up a sufficiently attractive slate of candidates to topple the government. Don't blame the people, because they are consumed with the business of daily living. When you're working for $800 a month, you think it easy when for somebody comes with you, election time is coming up, and they give you an envelope of $200. That's more than 60% of what you're making in a month. And they give you that one day and told you all I need for you to do is to vote. It's not easy to turn that down. So cut the people some slack. Cut the people some slack, and know that the responsibility of influencers and change agents, that's their responsibility to convince the people. The responsibility of opposition parties to bring attractive candidates to the fore. Because I've said time and time again, elections are like dating. It's the psychology of dating. You meet a woman, or a woman meets a man, she likes him, and she's going to do what she needs to do to get him, or he's going to do what he needs to do to get her. And if he ain't attractive, or if she's not attractive, he may not be attracted to her, or she may not be attracted to him. But if he's attractive, or she's attractive, you can bet your life that some kind of chemistry would play off. Or we may have a situation where, as you all know, as Henry Kissinger said years ago, that power is the greatest aphrodisiac there is, and power is money. So if you have a lot of money to splurge, or you have a lot of influence, or you have a big job, you're a minister of government, you are the CEO of a corporation, you are chairman of a board of directors of some company. If you have that kind of meat behind you, you may become an influencer, not necessarily for good, but you may become an influencer. So cut the people some slack, so underground, and understand that it is not that they like it so. What we need to convince our people about, we need to convince them so that they would understand that when politicians who don't work in their interests come to them, they would know, as we in the UPM, the United People's Movement, made popular back in the late 70s, early 80s, we said when reactionary politicians come, you need to eat them out, drink them out, and still vote them out. In fact, the people of Grenada did that a year and a half ago. Keith Mitchell had 15 seats. The opposition had none. They selected a new leader, they selected a new slate of candidates, and they carried a campaign, eat them out, drink them out, vote them out. It is said that Keith Mitchell spent more money than he ever spent in the election campaign, yet he lost 9 seats. So the opposition went from 0 of 15 to 9 of 15. But you have an attractive slate, and I think that is what the opposition in St. Vincent don't sufficiently think about. You can't put up somebody who might win. You have to put up somebody who you think have a great chance of winning. And I think that's the biggest failing of the opposition party in St. Vincent. You hear opposition people tell you, well, you know, we asked Jomo, you know. We asked Jomo to vote for us in 2015 or 2020, and he didn't come, so we ain't bothering with him. But my friends in Grenada tells this story. They said when the NDC wanted Deacon Mitchell to run, Deacon Mitchell had a good legal practice. He was making money, and he was reluctant. My friends told me they made 10 entreaties to Deacon Mitchell before he accepted. 10. They didn't say, oh, he rejected them 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 8 times. Each time they carry a different delegation, a bigger delegation, a better delegation to convince him. They convinced him, they offered him the leadership, he came. He took them from 0 seats to 9 seats in governance. Opposition party don't understand that. But I want to continue in debunking what the ULP says. This is the last point. Right? It says the ULP says that SVG is on the road to economic recovery. Well, what are we recovering from? What are we recovering from? It is true we have been battered, but it is interesting about this recovery formulation. Are we recovering from the volcanic eruption? Are we recovering from the COVID pandemic? Because remember, at the COVID pandemic, we were told, oh, we never even bothered to close down. We never even bothered to close down, we were told. So we didn't suffer the fallout that other people suffered. The volcanic eruption, did we suffer? Yeah, we had to move people around. We are borrowing money and we're giving it away like water. We're giving it away like water. Borrow $10 million from the World Bank. Put it on people's card and give it away. $200 now, $250 now. Nothing that they can do and become sustainable with. Nothing that they can open a little business and try to fetch for themselves. But you give them $200 this month and $200, $10 million. Just give it away. If these guys should not be charged for misbehavior in public office, I don't know. But that's what we got. So they said that we're on the road to economic recovery. But my brothers and sisters, we heard this story. We heard a different story a few years ago. A few years ago, we were told that we are on the cusp of an economic takeoff. Remember that? We were on the cusp of an economic takeoff. What happened to that cusp? Did it collapse? Did it fall through? So we are now on the road to economic recovery. And as I said in the column, if this is true, the vast majority of Vincentians don't feel it, neither do they see it. They don't feel it and they don't see it. The government projects, it says, oh, we expect 5.5% increase in 2024. Well, we have heard these numbers before, and more often than not, we don't meet them. But let us take for granted that there's a 5% increase. Let's take for granted 5% increase. Would that really carry us any place? Because we have had increase before, 5%, 3%, 4%. We are told, oh, you know, our economic advancement is better than any other country in CARICOM. Well, is that true? Except for Guyana, is that true? How is it reflected on the ground that that's the case? How? How is that the case? So a lot of times when they talk, we have to look deeper. But I'll tell you who's benefiting though. I'll tell you who's experiencing the recovery, or who's laughing, happy, who the fat cats, Gonzalez and his clan, all of them have companies feeding at the trough. All of them. But Sandals is ecstatic, as I said in my column of last week. Sandals is ecstatic. Sandals came in here, government took millions of dollars, millions of dollars that they got from the Bocaman Beach Resort when that collapsed. It gave it all to Sandals. I think it was amounted over $18 million. They give it to Sandals. Sandals say, oh, we want to build a new road. We don't want to come through the village down at the bottom of Bocaman. We want to build a new road. Gonzalez, the Kunumunu says, all right, here's $3 million. Build a new road. So you don't build a road through the community of Bocaman, but you give them a special road. So Sandals evidently is ecstatic. Sandals has tax-free concessions, probably for 15, 20 years. Sandals has a sister organization called, what is it called? Rainforest, which we see down here at Calico. Government says, okay, Sandals, we are going to give Rainforest, which is really Sandals, the exclusive contract to get fish and seafood for Sandals Hotel. You couldn't get it better than that. And I can bet my life, if we check that out closely, somebody in this administration somewhere is benefiting from that agreement. You could bet your life on that. So Sandals is evidently getting along. And somebody in the administration, maybe more than one, are also benefiting from that. Who else is in there? Aecon. Remember Aecon? The company, the Canadian company, is building the $600 million port. Again, I was taken aback when I saw a progressive brother saying, well, everybody knows that we need a new port. A new port for what? I mean, did this man read John Perkins' Confession of an Economic Hitman? And how big companies, big consulting companies tell us that we should buy this or buy that. So we put ourselves in debt. $600 million for an airport that would do what? To bring more containers into the country? Is that what we are doing? Is that what we want to build a new port for $600 million? When we could have spent probably $200 million and rehabilitate the old port that the Canadians helped us build in 1959. So we don't do that. We all for big projects, $600 million. But to show that Aecon is laughing all the way to the bank. When they planned this port project, the idea was to bring in at least 1 million cubic meters of sand from Suriname or wherever. And when they talked about it, Aecon had a better idea. Aecon says, well, why don't we pay $1 million US to a dredging company? Remember, that's $2.6 million. $1 million US to a dredging company, comes in here for 6 weeks. It dredges some sand, it fill in the area for us. So we no longer have to import it from abroad. You know, $1 million US. But in a $600 million project, you can be certain that to bring the sand to fill in that 16 acres of land, and that's what the brother who's in charge of port development, his name eludes me now. Good brother. His name eludes me now. But he says it's about 16 acres. So they had to fill in 16 acres of land. Right? So of that 600 million, you can be sure a good 80 to 100 million dollars had to do with buying and importing that sand. And the company got Gonzalez, the Kunumunu, to allow them to dredge the sand here. So they dredged the sand here, and Gonzalez initially said, oh, we're going to get $1 million, $1 million Eastern Caribbean dollars, you know. I have always said these jokers don't know money. $1 million Eastern Caribbean dollars for the sand. 1.17 cubic meters of sand for $1 million. Then he caught himself. He said, no, it's 2.5 million. Then he caught himself again. He says 4.5 million. And then there was a tremendous pushback. And I take credit for this pushback. Gonzalez then says, oh no, we're going to get 20 million. So just to see how the guys are silly. He has went from 1 million for 1.7 million cubic meters of sand to 20 million. But remember, Aecon might have had to spend $80 to $100 million to get the sand. But not knowing the value of resources, he settled for 1, then 2.5, then 4.5, and now he says 20. We don't even know if he's telling the truth. But he says 20 million, which means that Akon is probably getting a windfall of close to $60 million because it no longer has to import the sand. In fact, when they had, when Akon executives had a consultation at Caliacor, I asked the gentleman, how much money would you save? How much money would you save by dredging the sand here and not having to import it? The gentleman said, I can't tell you how much we would save. It's a commercial secret. It is my expose of that when Gonzalez threatened to pull their planning agreement. Thought he was fighting on behalf of the people, and then came back and said Akon decided to give them $20 million. The man said it was a commercial secret. So they got that windfall from dredging our sand for peanuts. Reno, you remember Reno? Former Works Minister Julian Francis said that when the man went to North Lee, when he saw the stone, the man said he had multiple orgasms. Remember? Multiple orgasms over our stone. Then Reno came in. The contract that Reno signed was registered on the very day, April 9th, 2021, when the sulfur erupted. Under the cover, you know, it says nothing like a disaster. Reno came in, they got 59 acres of government land. They were supposed to pay $1,200 per year. They were supposed to generate millions and millions of tons of stone and aggregate and everything else. They were paying 12. As it turned out, the stone that they saw was not as much as they thought. And to sell the idea of giving away our treasures, Gonzalez says St. Vincent was nothing more than a big rock with good soil. Now, you believe that? A prime minister of a country describing his country, the country he governs, as a big rock with good soil. So we could just give away 59 acres. So Reno gets that he rips off the face of the mountain with all kind of the environmental disaster, environmental fallout that comes with that. And that didn't work out. And then what happened? Reno simply segued. It jumped into buying and selling agricultural products. So Reno is now selling agricultural products, and Reno would, another foreign company gets a chance to make more money off the backs of Vincentians. So Sandals through Rainforest gets the exclusive contract to sell Sandals seafood, fish and other seafood. Reno, a foreign company from St. Lucia, gets the contract or the go-ahead to aggregate all of our farmers and sell agricultural products to Sandals. But you know, we have a company here called Windfresh. You ever wondered why Gonzalez and his clan did not think that Windfresh could do this job? You ever wondered why they didn't think that Windfresh has a lot of nice products. I encourage some of you, a local company that could do some of that. They didn't think about Windfresh. They want to give it away to their foreign friends, and I bet my life that when you see them giving away things so, and when everything is a fire sale, you can bet your life they're getting something out of it. I mean, I remember as a young advocate, as a young radical, we used to talk about Milton Cato Labour Party being corrupt. I say without any chance of contradiction that this Unity Labour Party is the most corrupted in the history. You know, Karl Marx used to talk about primitive accumulation. What we see in St. Vincent is primitive accumulation, where different persons connected to the government are going in a rapacious way, grabbing, snatching all and any kind of resources at the expense of the national treasury. None is as corrupted as this one. Whereas Cato and them used to probably deal with corruption in the tens of thousands, the whole Labour Party. And Mitchell them probably dealt with it in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. You do a proper investigation, you will find that these guys are rolling in terms of millions of dollars. And this is why I've always said, any new government must do forensic audits into a lot of the state institutions. How did they spend the close to $800 million that we got from PetroCaribe? Did they really spend $700 million to build the Argyle International Airport? What about the money that we are getting, the $86 million from the QET fund to build in 2014, 2015 to do the Mother of All Road Repairs program? Is there anyone whose hand we will find in the cookie jar? That's the test. That's what leadership demands. That's what we have to call for. But amidst all of that, where our people ain't getting nothing, as Brother Ebony says, most of us don't have anything at all, Gonzalez and his clansmen are still jubilant. Still jubilant. We're going to hit them for 6, they say. And as I said in my second column, after the 2020 elections, it's an uphill task. But if anybody in Vincentian politics could do it, credit Gonzalez to do it. So if the opposition don't want to get hit for 6 straight election defeat, for which it may never able to recover, it has to do some serious work. You can't just put anybody. You can have Mr. Wiley, that way he wants to run. You have Wiley. Last day, he lost in 1998. You have him. Came back in 2020, so he put on the guns again. Nonsense. He is an old guard. Should be looking at the constituency and finding somebody. Kibakas Baptiste. Looking in the constituency and finding somebody else to run for the party. How could the party not say, look, we're not putting you out to pasture, you know, we want to bring in some new, young, bright, articulate people who can do the heavy lifting, because this is not for me. This is not me being married to any opposition party, you know. This is me thinking about my St. Vincent and the children who are yet unborn, who are going to come to live here. You know, I have my people here, and they tell you, you know, people are taking over the place. They're taking it over. Are we going to give it up? Just so? We shouldn't. But we have to get a group of people, whether it's ULP or NDP, we want competence. You don't want to be married to a damn party. You want to be married to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You want to be married to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So this party doing foolishness, you kick them out. You put in another party and they're doing foolishness, you kick them out. You put in another party and they do foolishness, you kick them. That's what our St. Lucian brothers to the north do. The last 4 election cycle, they had a change of government. They put you in, you didn't perform, 5 years, go. They put somebody else, 5 years, they didn't perform, go. They put somebody else, 5 years, they didn't perform, go. That's what we need to do in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's not a love fest with our opposition. This is about love for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Love for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And all of us, like I hear some people say, particularly progressive people, oh, how are you going to vote for the opposition? What do you mean how are you going to vote for the opposition? You're not voting for the opposition. You're voting to remove mediocrity. Because as I have said time and time again, you have to learn to pick pockets. No pickpocket becomes a specialist overnight, but Gonzales have had 2 decades of picking Vincentian minds. So what do? You throw him out. You kick him out. And you put in some guys, not because you think that they're the solution to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but you kick them out, telling them, look, if you don't do the people's will, you have a short leash. We are going to kick you out too. All right, let's see that person. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good night to you. I just tuned in a while ago, and I tell you, is what you're saying, you're really educating the nation, and I pray that we will be wiser and really not criticize, but swallow, digest, and do what is the right. I tell you, the word and they are very powerful. I thank God for a man like you who will speak just how it is. Many people don't like it, but it's the facts, is the truth. And I look back and I listen to a lot of stuff, see a lot of stuff, and I reason it in my heart sometimes. And you help me, some stuff out of me, just how I'm thinking. And keep it up. Also, something is talk about the opposition. I say that to myself too. I said they need to, embrace young set of people. People will know how to carry out the task, and those who are there, some of them, they will educate them and push them and help to campaign with them. Also, sometimes I think, and Jomo, that why we can have another tall party, bring out some brilliant young men.
I'll tell you this, sir. I'll tell you this. I am not into this notion of any third party. And a lot of people meet me in the street and tell me that, oh, why don't you form a party? The problem with a third party is that if a third party comes for the 2025 election, it's not going to win. And what that third party may well do is to give the governing party a better chance to remain in power. But if the opposition fails to do what it needs to do to remove this party in power, I am almost certain that a third party would emerge. But I am not into any view which says that a third party should come. But I want to thank you very much too, because we have a number of other persons who are trying to get in.
Thank you.
All right. Sure. David says, Jomo Thomas, we will agree that the government in power is more likely to have the advantage in any general elections. Absolutely. The government has the power of the incumbency. It can use the state machinery. It can use so many things that it used in the last elections and previous elections. So yes, it has the advantage. So though there seemed to be much erosion of the support for the ULP, again, evident by the fact that they lost the majority vote in the last election, much of the concerns you have raised may undeniably be true. One cannot rule out a sixth term. Well, David, I'm not ruling out a sixth term. I told you, unless the opposition put a proper set of persons, an attractive slate of candidate, persons who are heavy, who can do the heavy lifting. I'm not just want anybody in the one people who can do heavy lifting, because this country is so ramshackled. This country, the public service, the police service, the boards, the CWSA, Central Water and Sewage Authority, anything that this government has put its hand on is in state of serious repair. So you want to have a group of people, a group of heavy lifters who can really, really do necessary things to get this all done. So yes, I am not saying that it's that the opposition, that this government is going to fall. Gonzalez, I said it earlier, Gonzalez is going to do all he needs to do to remain in power. Unless the opposition meets that challenge, it's going to fail. So yes, I agree with you. All right. So there we are. There we are. So I think that's I went through all of these things because I really, really believe that this ULP propaganda needed to be debunked. You know, what we can say today is that, you know, Brother Valentino, the Trinidadian, legendary Trinidadian Calypsonian, had a calypso in which he says, Trinidad is nice. Trinidad is a paradise.
We have another caller. Oh,
we have a caller. Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice.
We missed it.
Okay. Yeah. What Brother Valentino said, Trinidad is nice, Trinidad is a paradise. We can say the same for St. Vincent. St. Vincent is nice. SVG is a foreigner's paradise. Look, you have Sandals, you have Reno, you have Akon, you have Musty Company. Look, just to show how these guys don't know money. Musty Company has been around for a long time. The government gets, I think, 5 million. I can't remember if it was 5 million US or 5 million EC per year from that company, right? This is a company that makes scores of millions, hundreds of millions. And the government gets $5 million, and they have Vincentian workers who make an income which is higher than income on the mainland. But the government gets 5. I mean, look, if you do property valuation, and you try to get property tax, and you look at certain places in the United States, certain locations. If you're in Long Island, your taxes are higher. If you go to Turks and Caicos, property tax is high. You go to Sinbat, the property tax is high. But you get $5 million from Mustique Company. But you know, again, follow the money. Who is getting something out of that? Why would they settle for $5 million plus employment of a few hundred workers? Why? We need to ask ourselves that. You have kind of 2 big companies, one in the south, one in the north. Pinetario, I think, in the north, and what's his name? The Digicel man in the south. And twice now in the last 6 months, Gonzalez complaining that they are not getting the kind of monies they expected to get from the development in the south. These jokers give away all of Canon 1, 1,800 acres of land in a lease. And they're so stupid. They tell the people who invested, who got the lease, that they can sell freeholds. It's the first time probably in the history of the world where someone got a lease and they can sell lands from the lease. I don't know of any other place, any other set of leaders who are so stupid. I remember when I used to be with ULP, I encouraged Prime Minister Gonzalez. I said, look, you got to change that. You're giving away hundreds of millions of dollars. Talk about, oh, it's going to be too expensive. Too expensive what? The men are in violation of the lease. In fact, the very complaints that he make is proof that they're in violation of the lease. They're supposed to be selling these lands so that the government can get foreign alien land holding license money from it, where they can get 16% of the sale. But the guys are not bothering with that. They have a paradise called Kanawan. And the Kunumunu Gonzalez says that Kanawan, this is his marketing pitch. Kanawan is where billionaires run away from the millionaires on Mustique.
We have a caller.
Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice.
Hello?
Caller, good evening.
Yeah, this is what I said.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Thomas, I agree with all what you're saying there. And St. Vincent is a beautiful place, and the government should not really destroy it like that, how destroying it. Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying. And you see, once agriculture is done, we'll always bring in garbage in this country. Right? And there's a big thing going, but it's who benefiting. The majority of people are not benefiting, so they just ripping off this country. That's my contribution.
Absolutely. I thank you. I thank you for your call. Yeah. So that's the state of affair. That's where we are. You know, the government. Look at what is happening. They're preparing for the CELAC conference, and every hole on the main road is being fixed. In some areas, for decades, we have bad roads. You look at the roads going up to Edinburgh and Otley Hall, horrible. You look at the road from Calico, the Calico Anglican Church up to the top of Fay Hall, horrible. They are now trying to fix it coming down. Horrible road for years, since before 2019, they had these contracts. The roads in Morris Village, the roads in Lager Heights, the roads in Glen. Horrible. But they're spending all of this money. Give away $3 million to Sandals to build a road that is less than half a mile. And Gonzalez proudly says that, oh, yeah, we agree that we're going to build a road. And the road is going to cost us like about $3 million. Who is getting the kickback from a $3 million road that is half a mile or less than half a mile? I'm sure I could run that in less than 5 minutes from there down to Sandals. It couldn't be that long. $3 million they're giving away. And our people, our owners of vehicles, have this horrible situation where we are destroying our cars. Every week we have to take it to the garage for another part. Brakes, shocks. The sensors are being destroyed. But you spend all of the money, so you want to satisfy foreign entities. I mean, and you have to wonder, how do they think that people should be satisfied with this? How do they think that people should be satisfied? I mean, Our people just need, our people need to do more. You know, the great Oscar Allen used to say, we need to do more and be more. Where are people like him when we need him? Oscar Allen died much, much too soon. Uncompromising, disciplined, committed, selfless brother died in the death trap called Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. But we are spending all this money on whoever we want to spend it with. Nothing to do with our people. Come on, let's take a break, please, just for a few minutes.
WeFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices, it's interactive and thought-provokingly different. Voices, hosted by Jomo Thomas. We'll analyze all the issues of concern to you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the diaspora. Voices. We have a voice. We need your voice. Together, we are the people's voice. Voices.
These are some serious times. All I can see around us is just violence and crime.
And this is not about religion. It's not about color. It's not about class. It's about right and about wrong. And we must get into it. Yeah? Hear me. You took me from Africa, exploit my labor. 500 years later, I still can't recover my dignity. You took from me, rape me constantly, bankrupt my economy, left me in mental slavery. And now, you got to make me sweat right now. You better pay up your debt right now. Show the world you regret right now. Rome salaries and slavery back before 5 centuries. Me grandpa and grandmommy, I want their maturity, preparation, compensation. Yo, this is not a recommendation. It's a demand from all black nations representing our liberation, satisfaction now, and the oppression and the plantation was inhumane and wrong. Time for reparation.
Let's go back. Come on. All right, I'm Jomo Thomas. This is Voices. We are coming towards the end of the program. I just wanted to pick up on a number of the comments that people made because I think it's critically important that we look at them. Now, someone says, Marcella Jordan says, Jomo, your observation is correct. The NDP failed to attract the younger demographic. The ULP, on the other hand, is gearing up for upcoming election where focus on presenting itself as a party for young people, emphasizing the importance of trusting tangible outcomes, thus emphasizing the need to complete projects like Sandals, Holiday Inn, etc. urgently. Well, I got to tell you, I disagree with this premise fundamentally. The ULP as the governing party is able to get a few people or get some people, more than a few, to, for example, when it formed this youth commission recently. A number of people in the state administration, Gonzalez comes up to them, he says, look, I want to be in my youth commission. They would be hard pressed to say no. Some of them, even if they want to say no, because they are afraid that, boy, if I say no, I may not get any kind of promotion or so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter, Marcella, is that the NDP has attracted the younger demographic. If we say 60% of the population is youth, let's say between up to 40, right? And the NDP since 2010 has won 7 of 8 seats. In 2010, it won 7. In 2015, it won 7. And in 2020, it lost 1 by 1 vote and ended up losing, now holds 6 seats. That is not a party that is not attracting the younger demographic. In fact, what it says is that the party has failed to win that beauty contest. That when people look at the ULP slate of candidates and they look at the NDP slate of candidates, they conclude that they would go with the ULP slate. Because the NDP slate is not sufficiently attractive. And I think that's the problem. Because how can you say persuasively that the NDP does not attract the youth demographic, but conclude, as the election results showed, that they won 528 votes more than the governing party in the 2020 elections? You could not be the majority, the party that wins the popular vote, and not control the youth vote in a country where we are told 60% of the population is youth. So that's one way of debunking the argument. And Gonzalez spread this. I remember back in 2015 when I was with that group, that party, we used to have some real showdown because they could not take my analysis that it is not true that the ULP had a lock on the youth vote. My view, even then, trying to be as objective as possible, said it's not true that the ULP had a lock. They didn't think that, they thought that I was mad. Similarly, I said the airport will not significantly impact the national elections in 2015. They thought I was mad. Elections of 2015, election results were the same like 2010, 8-7. So I know that my thinking on many of these issues have been tested and proven correct. So this notion, Marcella, that the NDP cannot attract the younger demographic is not true. The other thing that the NDP should know is that whereas in the old days, probably up to 2015, the ULP had a lock on the eastern corridor of the country, coming all the way down from North Windward. The ULP no longer has that lock. Montgomery won by 69 votes. Well, let's take Prime Minister Gonzalez out of this picture. Soboto won, I think, by 241 votes. Stevenson won by 221 votes. Jimmy Prince won by under 400 votes. Camilo won by 182 votes. So if you look at those seats, all of them are up for grabs. So why don't you, how you can get strong, young, articulate, viable candidates to contest to make yourself more attractive in the minds of people? How you can do that? Because it's clear that if you put up young, bright, attractive, articulate people, the ULP would be toppled. But it seems as though you need a Ralph Gonzalez kind of attitude. You have Wiley still contending. Kibacus Baptiste having ran valiantly, did good service. But they have to convince their people that, look, elected office is not the only office in national government. There are a whole host of things to do. People can be ambassadors. People can be chairman of boards. People can, and you want to have people who can do heavy lifting. When they get into, if you want to emerge as victorious, we Vincentians want to see a government that is doing things in the favor of the majority of people. You can't have nobody who sit down in parliament and just gonna sit there like so many of them in the ULP now, and have Gonzales running roughshod over them and making them and damaging their future, and they sit there and grinning like buffoons. You want to have people who are articulate, who can challenge the leader, who are readers, who study information, and come to cabinet meetings prepared to discuss a vision for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If I had my way, I wouldn't run Nature Stevenson. I'll get somebody else. I have nothing against Nature Stevenson, but I think you have to have people who can do heavy lifting. Mr. Stevenson has been in parliament from what, 2010. You listen to his presentations. It's essentially the same presentation each time. Which ministry is he going to hold? Could he emerge as the leader of the party? But you know that's an NDP seat. It's not Nature's seat. So do like Mitchell did. Kick Mr. Stevenson up to make him the CJ in Canada, make him the CJ in New York. Bring somebody in who can help to do the heavy lifting. If I had my way, if I'm the leader, I'm doing everything I can to bring in Akin John in East St. George. Because you want to put up somebody against Camilo who can knock him out. Yeah, it's possible that Miss Gibson could do it, but Akin John, I think, stands a much better chance of knocking him out. And if you're out for 25 years, you want to be able to knock out Camilo, who's possibly going to emerge as the party's leader. But if he's going to emerge, let him emerge as a senator. In much the same way when Mitchell them, remember when Mitchell them got knocked out in 84, Hudson Tanis, who was the deputy leader, got knocked out by John Horn. But I mean, they don't seem to have an appreciation for it. And in many respects, I seem to be preaching to converted. But I'm giving good advice for free. Maybe they should start paying me a consultancy fee or something like that. But brothers and sisters, thank you all for staying with me all of these 2 hours. Thank you so much. Thank you for commenting. I know that there are so many other things that you all could have done, but you stayed for all of these 2 hours. Remember, read, pay close attention, because what you don't know can kill you. Until next week, when we come back with a vibrant and new guest here on Voices, I am Jomo Thomas saying good night.
WeFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices.